All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today, I wanted to have a legit, in-depth discussion about XDefiant being the quote-unquote COD killer or whatnot. Is this game going to be the COD killer? Yada, yada, yada. Everywhere you look on YouTube right now about XDefiant, you'll see a lot of that in the titles. And of course you would. And of course, a lot of content creators are going to title their video like that, as well as discuss it because, well, it's a popular question. It's a popular subject. It makes for good views. It's a good title for YouTube, so therefore you'll get views and such. So it just makes absolute sense, right? But in this video, I wanted to really go in depth as about this subject in terms of whether or not this game is indeed the COD killer or not. And in some ways, it's an easy question to answer. In other ways, it requires a little bit more in-depth. So this is why this video may be quite longer than my usual commentaries talking about a first-person shooter. So this might be a long one, so I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. So, okay, now first, I have to say that if you're going to compare this game to the more recent entries in Call of Duty, it is a useless question to ask of whether or not this game is going to be the COD killer. Because Call of Duty is, in the last 4.5 years or so, ever since Modern Warfare 2019 to today, Call of Duty has kind of moved away from that arcade type of shooter into something else. It's almost kind of like having an identity crisis because it's moved a lot towards that tactical type of gameplay in terms of design. And it's also implemented a few things just for the sake of change and taken away a lot of features that a lot of fans, both casual and competitive alike, have known from COD and that is expected of COD. So Call of Duty has definitely gone in a very different direction, especially with the Infinity War games and with Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 2019. So it's kind of almost having an identity crisis, so to speak. So in terms of the recent Call of Duties, it is a different game, so therefore it should not even be compared. And, you know, kind of like, let's say, Rainbow Six Siege. Are you going to compare Rainbow Six Siege to Call of Duty? No, Rainbow Six Siege is a tactical shooter, squad-based shooter, whatever you want to call it. Or like, let's say, Fortnite. Are you going to compare Fortnite to the traditional multiplayer of Call of Duty? No, they're not the same. Although right now, in terms of current games, they are shockingly similar, right? Which actually kind of makes sense because, well, the Battle Royale genre has kind of been really popular, but, you know, and Call of Duty wanted to make their own Battle Royale, and there you go. But we don't need to talk about Battle Royale. We're here to talk about XDefiant and the COD Killer and go a little bit more in depth in terms of XDefiant. So first, let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And that is, think about it, when Call of Duty was back during its more classic days, right? And we're talking everything from COD 4, which is 2007, to today. I'm sorry, not to today, to about, what, 2018, which is when Black Ops 4 was released, right? Those were basically the arcade shooter type of Call of Duties that we have mostly known over the years, okay? Now, back during that time, somewhere in the middle or whatnot, there was a little game that came out called Titanfall. And when Titanfall 1 came out, or before Titanfall 1 came out, everybody was saying COD Killer, COD Killer, COD Killer. Now, there were similarities between Titanfall 1 and what Call of Duty was then. No doubt about it. Especially when you take the advanced movement into effect, which, in my opinion, is something that, even though there were a lot of people that embraced it, there's a reason why Black Ops 3 is thought by many to be the best out of the advanced movement Call of Duty games. And that's because compared to what they did with Advanced Warfare, they kind of toned it down a little bit and kind of made it viable for, if you wanted to play boots on the ground, you could still very much do so and very much be successful at it. So it was kind of a choice, right? And of course, for skilled players, it was also another option to bail them out of tight situations, which they wouldn't have from a first-person shooter. From a boots on the ground arcade Call of Duty, right? Okay. So the advanced movement for a lot of players really was something that kind of started really dying down with the popularity. It's like with Advanced Warfare, you guys remember what happened? with Advanced Warfare, like for a month or so, everybody was loving it, and then about another month or so later, the game really, I mean, despite the fact that that game had implemented skill-based matchmaking in pubs, despite that, people were really just not digging it, including skilled players like pros alike and stuff like that. So who are the majority of your player base? The casuals, right? The casuals are the majority of the player base, the people that don't care about competitive, the people that just want to get on and play for a few hours. And even people that are the in-betweeners, right? Like the players that are like well above average in skill, right? Even those guys kind of to a certain degree got tired of the advanced movement. And I remember excuse me, I remember a friend of a friend, for instance, bought every single Call of Duty up until Advanced Warfare. And the reason for that was because with Advanced Warfare, he was not interested because to him it wasn't Call of Duty. Call of Duty was not Advanced Warfare. Just kind of like to me right now, in terms of the more recent Call of Duty games, to me that's not Call of Duty. Because Call of Duty was, to me, is everything from COD 4 all the way to Black Ops 4. And that's pretty much why I didn't play many of the other Call of Duties since then. I don't have Modern Warfare 2. I gave Vanguard a shot till second prestige and then never touched it again. I played Black Ops Cold War quite a bit, but the problems with that game kind of kept me away or whatnot. And what's it called? Modern Warfare 2. Don't have it. And I don't regret that decision either. And Black Ops, Modern Warfare 2019. It's probably my least played COD overall. So, because those games are just not that Call of Duty to me. And it really doesn't take much to take away from what Call of Duty is. I like baking a cake, you know. If you don't have the flour, you'll get something that resembles a cake, but it won't be a cake at the end of the day. So that's my simple decision behind it. Now, that's the whole Titanfall thing, right? And then obviously it was only limited to when Titanfall 1 came out, it was also limited to just one console at the time, which was, you know, Xbox and PC. There was, you know, PlayStation didn't have access or whatnot. In Titanfall 2, that changed, but let's not forget that Titanfall, again, was a bit different because, again, you had the advanced movement, which, again, a lot of players, which we already discussed, you know, kind of turned them off from the game. Even players that were good. And plus you had the Titans, right? Which, again, a lot of people loved, and yet at the same time, a lot of people didn't like. So put that together, it's like, well, it's kind of like a whole bunch of different games into one. It's almost like all these games have had some sort of identity crisis to a certain extent, right? So with another little game that I want to compare to is Splitgate. Splitgate, for one, was old, and then Splitgate again had a similar problem. There were a lot of different it's like the game was trying to be a whole bunch of different games at once. It's like it tried to be a little bit of Call of Duty. It tried to be a little bit of its own thing with the gates, the portals or whatnot, which again turned a lot of people off, like myself. That's why I didn't play Splitgate for too long. It was, again, mixing Halo gameplay with Call of Duty gameplay. The advanced movement I didn't mind. It was familiar. It was similar to Black Ops 3 or whatnot. But again, with all the different elements put into one, I particularly didn't like that combination. And I felt that with Splitgate, there was just too many recipes onto this one type of meal that they were trying to serve us, right? It was just let me rephrase that. Too many ingredients that just, you know, maybe sound good on paper, but when you put them together, they don't really taste that good. You know what I mean? Here I go again with my food analogies. Again, I've been doing that ever since the beginning of this channel, which, by the way, I just reached my 8th anniversary as of the 15th. I reached my 8th anniversary here on YouTube. So I've been doing this for 8 years. Go figure. So anyway, let's get back to it. So those are my thoughts about like the whole comparison with Splitgate and stuff like that, because a lot of people are wondering, well, this game could very well end up having like the Splitgate thing to where everybody plays the shit out of it. Everybody's playing it and playing the crap out of it for a month and then they disappear. Or with Titanfall, where they thought it was going to be the COD Killer and then all of a sudden it just ended up not being that or whatnot, right? Okay. Now, I am willing to say that, sure, it's possible that that may happen again. But I will say, respectfully speaking, it's unlikely because of the amount of support, because of the type of game that it is, the familiarity, and as far as the new stuff that it's implementing in order to establish its own identity, it's not like something so new or something so. It's not like it's too many ingredients or ingredients that don't belong. There is, I have noticed, because there is some bunny hopping in this game in XDefiant. It's not like anywhere near to what it was in, let's say, Quake, the Quake games, or let's say Titanfall. Not anywhere near it. It's very temporary or whatnot. It's extremely toned down, and most people are not even going to use it anyway. And when you do use it, it's only good for like 1 or 2 seconds as compared to like, you know, going from one side of the map to the other in just 5 seconds, regardless of how big the map is, right? So, plus there's no wall running and stuff like that. Plus the maps are just, you know, they're designed like not to have much verticality, and they're also very open. They're not very enclosed. There's no doors, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Now, I've also made a little bit of a list here so I don't miss anything. Like in terms of what Call of Duty's been doing now, right? Let's see what Call of Duty's been doing recently. They've taken away map voting, and again, this isn't everything, but this is a good amount of things. They've taken away map voting. They've increased the aim assist to where anybody can aim as well as I can, or close to as well as I can. Okay, which again, I am a console player, let me rephrase that. I am a controller player. Okay, because I've also played on PC as well, both on mouse and keyboard and controller. But the vast majority of my first person shooting time has been spent on controller. And I really don't like the fact that not just in Call of Duty, but in other games as well, they've increased the aim assist, making it just too easy to lock on target. Which for me doesn't, number one, it doesn't make it as fun, and number two, it's literally like a participation trophy or free skill to players that just haven't earned it. They haven't spent the time that I have to literally train their muscle memory and their brain, their mind muscle connection and the coordination to be able to aim that well. And back when I played Call of Duty very consistently, I was very proud of my aim. And when I streamed, when I did a few times during the life cycle of Black Ops 4, I do remember a few times, and I don't forget this kind of stuff because it just doesn't happen as much with me in terms of like the amount of people I would get in chat. But one time I had close to 20 people in the chat here on YouTube when I streamed Black Ops 4 back in 2018 or 2019 or whatever it was. Yeah, 2018. And I remember people were saying to me like, dude, you got good aim, and stuff like that. Really, it made me feel really good because it was, I worked very hard for it. So to be complimented on it meant quite a lot to me. It meant a lot. So all of a sudden now, it's like when you give every single player that increased amount of aim assist to where it's ridiculously easy, it just takes away a lot of the fun factor from me, because I get more of a dopamine hit when I truly earn my kill, right? And it's part of what makes the game fun. It's part of what makes the game addictive. It's what separates you from the rest of the crowd, right? So anyway, going back to what I was saying earlier, what else did they do? They've had bad ideas, like a third perk in the last minute of the game. I don't know who thought of that, but seriously, where's the fun factor in that? Let's see, there's no communication between the developers or the, and even the publisher, of course, but forget the publisher. No, not communication. There's lack of transparency, no communication. They've implemented engagement optimization matchmaking and skill-based matchmaking in pubs. There's anti-cheat either doesn't work or there's no anti-cheat. There's doors, safe spaces, and bad maps with lines of sight all over the place that reward only one type of play style, that cater to only one type of play style, and like seriously, lots of broken promises. Let's see, we got of course we have the creator class, which is another bad design decision. Where on paper it sounds good to have like a balance to where, hey, if you want to aim down sights more, okay, you're going to have a shit ton more recoil and you're not going to be able to move as fast. But again, the way they've designed it is it just caters to much more to one specific type of style. So in other words, if you're going to try to move faster, you're going to get punished for it. Not just in game, but like even when you create a class. All right. let's see what else. Oh yeah, no proper minimap function, like no red dot on the minimap when you fire your unsuppressed weapon. So it's little things like that. I'm sure there's more added to the list, but you guys get the point. So let's make it clear into what XDefiant is doing. There is going to be map voting. Aim assist has actually been toned down. Every streamer and player that I've seen has said this. And as a controller player, this makes me happy. And even PC players that are on mouse and keyboard is going to make them happy. And because of this, because you're never going to reach a full, it's going to be something that's never going to end. Nobody's ever going to be happy, right? In terms of mouse and keyboard versus controller players or whatnot. So what they've done is they're also going to implement input-based matchmaking. So what I mean by this is if you're playing on a controller, you get to play on other controller players regardless of what platform they play on, whether they play on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. If they're using a controller, you're going to play, it's only going to search for people that are playing controller with the same input as you. And the same thing goes with mouse and keyboard. And of course, you have the option to like not give a damn and just turn all that off and just play, against whoever. So there you go. Let's see what else. In terms of ideas, like for instance, like if you're going to pick an attachment for your weapon, it's going to improve that attachment to your weapon and it's not going to punish you in other ways. Simple as that. I mean, isn't that what attachments are supposed to be in the first place? It's like, and at the same time, it makes it a lot more fun and a hell of a lot less complicated to set up your gun the way you want it set up for the particular game mode or your particular style in terms of how you play or how you want to play. So, yeah, let's see. No communication, lack of transparency. Dude, Mark Rubin has been tweeting his ass off, even about times when he can't tweet. He's been tweeting about, anything, things that they need to fix. He's been answering questions, including yours truly, including yours truly's questions. What's it called? He's talked about, including in this showcase here that you see the footage of, which I've cut to just show the gameplay. Like they've talked about transparency and how they want to be transparent. They talked about skill-based matchmaking, which everybody else and other first-person shooter franchises are just keeping tight-lipped about. Like they don't discuss it, they don't talk about it. Especially with Call of Duty. You mentioned skill-based matchmaking, you get blacklisted. Here with these guys, if you ask about skill-based matchmaking, you actually get an answer to your question. I mean, do I really need to say more than that? Let's see what else. Oh yeah, of course, the engagement optimization matchmaking. Every single stream that I've seen so far, I mean, at this point, the skill-based matchmaking, engagement optimization matchmaking has been even in betas, right? From Call of Duty that we've seen over the last God knows how many years. And I see people streaming the beta right now for XDefiant, and they're all having hella fun. Like, obviously, there's a few people that are not, obviously, but for the most part, the vast majority of people are having hella fun. And to top it all off, there's issues obviously in the beta with the desync and then the server issues and stuff like that, and a lot of people are trying to play and all that kind of stuff that the developers are actually working on. So it's like all this stuff is going to be fixed at launch. Oh, and there's more. Hold on. Obviously, they haven't discussed much about anti-cheat because they don't want to give away any clues in terms of how it works. So that way, it actually just ends up succeeding in what it's trying to do, because all it takes is it's very difficult to have a game succeed and to realize its vision, but it could get ruined very easily, unfortunately. And if there's cheaters and stuff like that, I remember I even made a video about this, asking Mark Rubin about banning the Cronus Zen or the Cronus Max or whatnot, and they said they're looking into something like that. So, and I think he also said that he might update when he learns more or something like that. I'm not sure, but I'll tweet at him again and I'll ask him. So hopefully there'll be something like that at launch, because that shit is just absolutely ridiculous. It's things like that need to be freaking banned. It's as simple as that. So for obvious reasons. I'm not seeing any doors, I'm not seeing any safe spaces, and I'm not seeing maps that are just absolutely ridiculous. Like, obviously there's going to be good and bad maps, just like every single game out there. But with that being said, I'm looking at the maps. Excuse me. I'm looking at the maps in this game, and like, there's not too much verticality. I like the colors, they're vibrant, so you can actually see people. I like the fact that it's fast paced. Your movement is your offense and your defense. It's basically when I look at the map, this map specifically, it literally is a definition of what this game is, and that is an arena arcade shooter. Simple as that. It's not something that's saying it's an arena arcade shooter and trying to be something else. No, this is an arena arcade shooter through and through when I look at it, including the graphics, which a lot of arena arcade shooters actually, a lot of them are older because most arena arcade shooters are kind of older, so they don't look as good as they did when they first launched. But the thing is, with an arena arcade shooter, the number one priority is the gameplay and how the game feels and how smooth it is and how everything works, as opposed to the graphics. The graphics need to be a secondary factor, if not further down. And like I said before in previous videos, like games right now in general look good today, but the thing is, a game needs to feel good. Like back in the day, you guys remember Quake or Quake 3 Arena, right? That game, like, despite the fact that it would play on for a long time, especially like in the beginning of when it came to multiplayer shooters, Quake 3 Arena was popular for a very long time because of how it felt. And I'm sure with other games that came out later, they might have looked better, but a lot of people, like for instance, look at even today, right? Why do people still play, let's say, Call of Duty World War II? Or let's say a Black Ops 4? Why do people still play those a lot? Or why do people still play a certain old game a lot? It's because of how it feels and how it plays, right? So that's why. Because again, some people will not like the way a certain game feels or plays. So therefore, they're not going to play it. So like for me, for instance, I'll gladly play World War II over Modern Warfare 2019 any day of the week because of how it plays, right? Despite the fact that it's a 60 frames per second limit game, it's because of how it plays, because of its map design, because of the way the time to kill works, the way the perk system works, the fact that there's no skill-based matchmaking and all that other shit. So, and if there was, I'm sure there was at some point, at least that's what players were saying. I don't know if that's true or not with World War II, because I didn't play it that much during its life cycle. But regardless, I mean, it's obviously been turned off. So things like that, and just like for instance, when I put an attachment on my weapon, it doesn't punish me, right? It doesn't punish me for the way I want to play. It doesn't slow down anything else. So you guys get the point here. So it's about design. So this game by design is meant to be an arcade first-person shooter arena style, and it's meant to be fun. Like literally, fun factor is it's taken into account when designing this game, right? It's not about realism. It's not about stuff like that. It's about the fun factor, and there's different ways to describe technique, right, and skill in different first-person shooters. There's the tactical side of things, which are a lot slower and revolve a lot about covering a position and staying there and figuring out how to keep enemies out and stuff like that, and put yourself in an advantageous position and just guard a doorway or whatever it is, or an objective, things like that. And at the same time, there's the other side of the coin, which is movement. So that's one of the main differences between a tactical shooter and an arcade shooter. And when you look at the design of this game, just by looking at it, it is an arcade shooter, an arena arcade shooter by design. So that's another thing as well. So, oh yeah, and of course, there's proper mini-map functions. Look at that. So, there's red dot sights on maps, everything like that. So, and they've also introduced what are called in Call of Duty specialists, or you got your supers and your ultras or whatever it is, or your equipment and stuff like that. So, and of course, there's the fact that there's like in this footage here, you can tell that these guys that are playing are retired COD players. Some of them I think are still active. Like I think Sensor is still competing, obviously, but everybody else, like they're either retired or former COD players or whatever, and they're obviously playing this game. So that's another reason why you want to debate on whether or not it's a COD killer, right? There's tons of comparisons to make in terms of the classic Call of Duty games. But one thing I just want to iterate is that this game is still simultaneously trying to be its own thing. It doesn't need to compete with Call of Duty anymore because Call of Duty isn't that anymore. Now, I will say this, if COD kind of goes back and basically turns into what it used to be again and gets rid of skill-based matchmaking and engagement optimization matchmaking, I think this is the reason why, this is the game that's gonna, you're gonna have to think for that. Because in my eyes, this game it's going to be different enough, and it has a certain pace in and of itself, and with its game modes to where it's like, yes, you can compare it to Call of Duty, but I think it makes a lot more sense for literally this to be the ideal definition of a Call of Duty alternative. So But with that being said, there's always going to be that debate, right, in terms of classic Call of Duty and this game. So if we were to take the current Call of Duty, uh, the current Call of Duties out of there and just focus on the old Call of Duties, the ones that were arcade first-person shooters, aka Black Ops 4, all the way back to COD 4, would this, if that was the way it was, I mean, would this be a COD killer? That's a really good question, and my answer is that it certainly has potential. It has potential to be that, but at the same time, it still is its own thing, right? Call of Duty is Call of Duty. XDefiant is going to be XDefiant. There just happens to be a lot of similarities, which is why people are asking that question. And I personally think that it would be better to actually not compare them. And because I'm trying to put my thoughts into words here, because it's not they're just as alike as they are different, if that makes any sense to me. Because from what I've seen, and again, I haven't played the game yet, I don't have a beta code and all that kind of stuff, so there are, again, a lot of similarities, but yet a lot of differences. Like, for instance, this game doesn't have streaks. The map design, although similar, is simultaneously different, and the way the objectives work, even with ranked play, are different. And it's those subtle differences that make the difference. Really, I mean, it's true. And that's the thing about this game, is that the differences that it does make make the difference, but at the same time, they're kind of subtle. And the reason why I say this is because gunplay is still the number one factor in this game. And whether or not, and the thing is, objective play is, like, in my opinion, from what I could see here, is like actually on a whole other level, as well as teamwork. A little bit on a whole other level in Call of Duty. Like, for instance, they have a kill confirmed like mode in this game. I forgot what the name of it is, but they have a a kill confirmed type mode in this game. And guess what? It rewards you in different ways. So for instance, right, you're collecting the tags, of course, like usual. Okay, cool. But if you got a whole bunch of tags on you, and you're like the one with like the most tags held at a certain point, you get rewarded by having a speed boost and a fire rate boost to your gun. So you become more lethal, and you can move around faster, and you can choose to make that your offensive and defensive weapon, right? So so there's that. However, at the same time, there's a balancing factor, and which means that you actually, everybody on the enemy team is going to know your position on the mini map while you have this, this power or whatnot, in order for you not to become crazy overpowered or something like that. So, but you have the opportunity to be, though. But at the same time, you just got to know that everybody's going to know where you are on the mini map. So it's kind of like a combination of kill confirmed, cranked, and regicide from Halo 4. From what I remember, which was one of my favorite modes in that game, by the way. So you're literally taking the concept. See, they're just improving on like something from COD Killer. I almost say Killer, Kill Confirmed, because Kill Confirmed, for whatever reason, was, we were hoping when it was introduced in Modern Warfare 3, we were hoping that it would be more popular than Team Deathmatch, but it never came to be. And for whatever reason, that just never happened. But now they're giving you reasons to pick up those tags, and they reward you handsomely for it. And it could make you better. So it's like, when you look at all these other objective-based game modes and stuff like that, it's like, I'm looking at this. This is ranked, by the way. I'm looking at this competitive game mode right here, and the thing is, like, even myself, who's way past his prime, right? At age 38, I'm way past my prime, and I'm looking at this like, holy shit! Like, it makes me want to actually get in there and probably try some of the competitive modes, because I do. If the game is fun, I don't mind. And I've said this again, if the game is fun, I don't mind skill-based matchmaking. For instance, I actually preferred Halo Infinite's ranked to their casual play. And the reason for this is because I love the BR starts, right? Number one. And of course, the competitive maps were better. I like the competitive maps. And I didn't mind the competitive game modes at all. So, like with this game, if I don't mind the modes, then bro, I wouldn't mind giving competitive in this a fair shot. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about fun factor for me anyway. And of course, learning the game on that level has always been something that has always been very interesting to me. and it's always kind of inspired me. I mean, basically, like when you think about it, every single player out there that wanted to get better at pubs to a certain degree has gotten their inspiration from pro players, because nobody knows the game better than the competitive players do. They literally dissect the game in so many ways and know so many things that a lot of, even really good pub players don't know. So, I mean, who do you go to? You go to those guys, right? Those are the guys that spend the most time playing the game. They dissect the game, the way they develop strats and communications. It's these guys are incredible players at what they do. And when it's one thing to spend 4 hours, which is a lot of time during the day to play video games, but it's a whole other thing when you do it 8 to 12 hours a day, every day. It is a whole other thing, even if you're just playing pubs. And I know this because I've spent a few vacations from work doing this back when Call of Duty was, in its classic state. I've done that before, and I can tell you, when you're playing 8 hours a day, I promise you this to anybody who's watching this, when you're playing 8 hours a day, granted you're using the correct technique in order to do it, your aim, for instance, is going to be on another level when you're playing 8 hours a day compared to 4. Like, you are going to be really good with your target acquisition, your consistency, and all that kind of stuff. Your aim and your overall consistency will improve. This is the reason why one of the reasons why pros play as much as they do. You got to get your reps in. You got to build up that muscle memory to your absolute maximum to maximize your potential in terms of how well you aim, your decision-making skills, your call-outs, stuff like that. But ultimately, when it comes to your aim, which is something that pro players do very, very well, it's because they've put in that time and their muscle memory and everything like that, the reaction time, and the fact that they're playing against other people that are of that skill level is what makes them the gods that they are on the sticks, right? Or mouse and keyboard, if there's, in another game where you're playing on mouse and keyboard. It's because the amount of time. Look at a guy like Shroud, for instance, right? Who's a former CSGO pro, right? Why do you think he has the aim that he does? Granted, that's not his number one gift. His number one gift is that he's able to adapt, right, to whatever game he plays, right? That's his gift. But he's also got hella good aim. Why is that? Because he spends a lot of time, and has spent a total of a lot of time in his life playing games like this. And that's why he's put in that time. He's exercised his muscle memory. He knows what works and what doesn't. He's willing to, and he knows what it takes to become good at a game. So I think this is what happens. He applies it to all the games he plays, and that's why he adapts so well. So you guys get the point. So anyway, going back on topic here, I do believe this game has the absolute potential to be that other player, that other game that throws itself into the mix as this amazing arena shooter or first or arcade shooter. I mean, it does have the potential. Like when you're looking at classic COD and then this game here, if it releases in a good state with the kind of support that it's going to have, which we're going to get into more in a minute, I think it does have the potential to be on the same level that Call of Duty was back in the day. Yes, I do believe that. Now, and I even think it could inspire many more than that. I think XDefiant, whether it reaches its goal of being that one game that we just said or not, I think that at the very least, especially when released properly and stuff like that, at the very least that it's going to accomplish is that it's going to inspire other developers or publishers to do what this game is doing and to actually listen to the fans, eliminate things like engagement optimization matchmaking or skill-based matchmaking in pubs, and listen to your fan base. And hey, the arena shooter is not dead. It's alive and it's very well. And that's why this game really not only deserves as much support as it can get from the fan base and everything else, but it really just it belongs in the first person shooter genre. It deserves to be popular. It deserves to have its own fan base. It deserves to be that game on those lists of competitive gaming modes, and as well as the kind of support they're going to give for pubs. That's great. I mean, they're going to implement the old DLC, and this is free to play. They're going to implement the old DLC structure into this, right? From what they used to do, like in terms of you're going to get, like, every 3 months you're going to get maps, you're going to get weapons, you're going to get a new battle pass, and then I think something else I think they mentioned as well. So it's like there's always going to be something to do. And Mark Rubin himself has already discussed that they don't just want to make this game and then leave it. They want to support this game for a long time. And the fact that it's going to be free is great. I mean, I want, like, for instance, when you look at some of these very successful battle royales that have been getting support over the years. Let's say Fortnite, for instance, as a prime example. And again, I don't play Fortnite, so I'm not as in touch in terms of the kind of support that it's getting. But all I know is that that game continues to be successful, and that game's support that it got from the devs is what made that game successful as it is. They did it right for the most part, from what I could see. And they continue to try to do better. And when you look at graphics and stuff like that, I mean, Fortnite didn't look very graphically impressive when that game came out, but people enjoyed playing it. So therefore, people kept coming back to play it. It's about how the game feels. It's about the design and all that kind of stuff that make it fun. Graphics, don't have to be a part of the fun factor. As a matter of fact, I can tell you they're not a part of the fun factor. Actually, it's just an illusion, really, a powerful illusion that a lot of people will fall for, at least in the beginning. But at the end of the day, something can look really good, but if it doesn't play well, are you going to keep playing it? Chances are probably not. I mean, I can only speak for myself. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but I've been gaming long enough in my life, about 31 years or so, to know. And I've spent 10 years, 8 of which have been about this YouTube channel for the most part. 8 of those 10 years, I've been covering Call of Duty content on here. Maybe let's just say 7. Let's just say 7, because I'd say I spent like the last year kind of being a little bit all over the place. But I spent 10 years, if not more, playing Call of Duty, and I know COD, specifically the classic traditional Call of Duty, which was an arcade shooter. So, and I've been around long enough, and I know, and there are other people out there that know even more than I do. Some people are just extremely talented, and they know their stuff, as well as with their skill on the sticks and everything like that. So, and that's why I'm very glad to see that this game is getting the kind of support that it's getting from former Call of Duty players. One of them, who is Patrick Aches Price, who was a very successful Call of Duty pro, that is helping make the game, right, and is going back and forth with devs and stuff like that. So, and then of course you got Mark Rubin, who not only plays his own game, and Mark Rubin and a whole bunch of other former Call of Duty developers. Not all of them are Call of Duty developers, but again, a lot of people that have been developing these types of games that know their shit. Because right now with Call of Duty, in terms of its current state, there's a lot of developers that are not only left, but there's a lot of developers that are developing the game that are not familiar with Call of Duty and what Call of Duty really is. You know how I know that? Well, when you look at the DLC maps, what are they doing? They're taking these real places and they're cutting and pasting them and putting them in the game. You know what I mean? Like, Call of Duty maps are not, you can take inspiration from real places, sure, but in terms of the map design, in terms of, how many lanes are there going to be on the map, how many lines of sight, how much verticalities are going to be on the map, where can you go or you cannot go, are there going to be doors or not, close quarters combat versus wide open, stuff like that. Like, you get what I'm going here. They're just cutting and pasting real places and putting them in the game, and just saying, here you go, this is a fun map for 6v6. It's like, no, dude, no. So you got to understand what the size of the maps are going to be, how many lines of sight, how many lanes, how many ways you can get to a certain point and stuff like that. It's got to be, and it doesn't need to be complicated. It's actually quite simple, actually. Look at football, look at basketball. Those are simple games, right? So it doesn't need to be complicated, and just throwing stuff in there for the sake of throwing them in there is not good. And these are all mistakes of people that are just inexperienced with this type of genre of game or whatnot, or even game in the first place. So the fact that you've got people who know what they're doing, that are developing this game, is giving this game that much more potential. So in other words, instead of just saying, is this the COD killer, I would more than likely say this is like the COD revival. You know what I mean? It's closer to a COD revival than a COD killer, despite the fact that this game's trying to be its own identity. This game, believe it or not, even though it's just trying to be its own thing, to do its own thing, like, it could bring classic Call of Duty back, not just because of what it's offering, but it might cause, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it might, at least potentially, cause Call of Duty to do like let's say a 180 and say, hey, you know what, maybe we need to be going in this direction. So who knows, if this game is popular enough, and if this game really does take the fan base and basically brings them all there, like it has the potential to do, absolutely. Numbers matter, dude. And that's the only way you can get the publisher's attention. Devs know this, but the only way you can get the publisher's attention and, tell the devs that, hey, you guys need to do what these guys are doing or whatever it is by numbers. That's why Call of Duty created a battle royale of its own, with Blackout first and then Warzone. That's why Call of Duty did that. They saw the numbers that Fortnite was putting up and they're like, hey, we want some of that, so we need to do this. So if the numbers of players are going to go, if the huge chunk of numbers of players are going to go from Call of Duty to this, right? Because this game does everything or the most things better, guess what? They're going to notice, and it's going to potentially cause a change. Now, if Call of Duty continues to make the money that it's making, then it's not going to change anything really. But I'm telling you, plus it's going to be very interesting with Microsoft taking over. But that's a whole other video because there's a lot of back and forth in terms of what could happen with Microsoft and Call of Duty. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the way I see it is, I'm looking at this as a COD revival, if anything, as opposed to a COD killer. This game could be the quote unquote Call of Duty that we've wanted for a long time that we have yet to get, but with a slightly different ingredient, so to speak. It's not Call of Duty, but it's literally a Call of Duty alternative. I mean, it's its own thing, kind of just like Titanfall is its own thing, just like Splitgate is its own thing. This game is its own thing. However, it is very familiar with Call of Duty. It is very Call of Duty-like-esque, but at the same time different enough to where you can say it's like Call of Duty, but it's not. Okay? So, Battlefield is Battlefield. Call of Duty is Call of Duty. At the same time, XDefiant is going to be XDefiant. Titanfall is Titanfall. So, it's how you combine the different game design decisions that you make that make your game successful and the reasons for it. And the thing that has me excited as well is that the developers themselves, and I mentioned this earlier and I'm going to say it again, they care about the fun factor. They want this game to be fun, right? Why implement, if you're going to implement something into the game and it's not fun, why implement it? And if you don't know what fun is, but you're implementing something in there, but you don't know if it's fun or not, or if you don't know if the players are going to think it's going to be fun, again, that's a sign of inexperienced developers in a specific genre, which again is what the Call of Duty those are the mistakes that Call of Duty's been making more and more and more. And guess what we've been finding out? That I guess there's more developers that used to work on Call of Duty that are not anymore, and they went on to work on something else or a different game genre, or just, who knows, maybe some of them are part of the group here at XDefiant. You don't know, maybe. So I think we get the point here. So so it's at the end of the day, it's more of a COD revival in terms of what classic Call of Duty used to be, but it's going to be in a different name and with a slightly different flavor in XDefiant. That's my answer to the whole, is this a COD killer? But when you're looking at current Call of Duty, dude, it's a ridiculous question to ask because it just doesn't make sense, because current Call of Duty is not like this game. And like I said before, if you know first person shooters, and if you know Call of Duty and stuff like that, or should I say traditional Call of Duty, it's like, the current Call of Duties are just not traditional CODs. Simple as that. It's so therefore they shouldn't be compared. So we compare, it's better to compare apples to apples as opposed to a banana and an apple. I mean, it's why would you compare them? They're so different. So yeah, I think this game has tremendous amount of potential from everything that I've seen, from streams, from footage and everything else. And the thing is, I personally am very much looking forward to playing it. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing finally the entire community getting their wishes granted after so many years of being ignored. And, because we're not just talking COD, we're just talking about like fans of the arcade shooter in general. Obviously the Call of Duty community being, a prime example, obviously. Like, the arena shooters haven't been getting much love lately in terms of something new and all that kind of stuff, and modern and everything like that. So it's good to see that again, because that is what I particularly like, especially for as long as I've been around. And it's good to see that, because for the longest time it didn't seem like we were going to get that. And I'm glad that somebody decided to make this. I don't know who was able to get this into momentum. I know that Ubisoft also has like a lot of people don't trust Ubisoft, and rightfully so, but I mean, if they turn it around and actually make a legit, really good game and stuff like that with these developers here, and it's like, dude, this has some serious potential. It's like it's kind of like a Cinderella story or whatnot about to come true or something. So, um, again, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic, but with everything that I've seen so far with this closed beta footage, streams, and everything like that I've been watching a lot of, I'm not as cautious. I'm opening up a little bit more. However, in terms of the past and stuff like that, you don't forget the past, and you don't want to set your standards too high or open up too much. You got to protect yourself because sometimes you never know. So I don't think we should come up to with any conclusions, good or bad, before like the full release of the game comes out, right? Because right now, when you look at it, like there's a lot of good things about the game, and of course, there's a few bad things about the game. For instance, I don't like the fact when they mess with health. I've mentioned this before in the previous video. I don't like it when they mess with health. I think everybody should be on an even playing field when it comes to health. Change other things and give people advantages in other ways. But when it comes to health, you shouldn't mess with that. And you know why? You shouldn't mess with health because it messes with the gun to gun. It takes away the legitimacy of gun to gun gameplay, which is the first and foremost factor of this game. The gun to gun gameplay is the first thing, and they've even said that themselves before. It's like even though they've got abilities and stuff like that in the game, the number one core of the game is gun to gun. That is like the deciding factor of everything, right? It's not going to be your special versus my special sort of thing, right? It's like first and foremost, it's my gunplay versus your gunplay, and whoever comes out on top because of skill is going to determine who is going to ultimately earn their advantage first, right? Or their ability first, and when to use it and how to use it and all that kind of stuff, or who also gets it more frequently because they get rewarded for having better gun skill. Simple as that. So that is what the core of that game is. And of course, you've got your movement, which is, your offense and your defense at the same time. You got the freedom to move around the map and pick up an angle to pick up a few targets before you move again. Because the thing is, when you stop to take out a target, you're also going to be like right here, you're not in a spot to where like you can't be seen. It's like, okay, where is this person, or like, oh, I'm going to try to shoot this person back, but I can't shoot at him because there's all sorts of stuff in the way and I can't shoot him. So this game makes it to where it's like, no matter what, when you try to shoot somebody, you are going to you're going to have to move immediately afterwards because people will know where you're at because of the game's design. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, your movement needs to be your offense and your defense. Your better shooting skills will give you an advantage that's rightfully earned. The supers and the equipment and the supers or whatever they're called, ultras or whatever, add another layer of flavor into the game, but don't make it the main event of the game, which is fine. And they're going to be tinkered with. They're going to be messed with until they reach the perfect balance in terms of how they make it. And again, I also think that possibly like a bare bones style playlist or might be good for this game, to where you don't have your specialists. It's gun on gun. That might be something that they might have to look into. Or at the same time, you never know. It might not be as good, because when you look at everything here, because of the objective based game modes as well, it's like it really does enhance that kind of level of play. And they've been implemented in there so that way players can have further incentive to play the objective and get rewarded for it in so many ways. I personally think that's genius. I think that's awesome. They originally rewarded players with the score streak system in Black Ops 2, right? Or the point streak system, in Modern Warfare 3. And then that got evolved into the score streak system that they used for a long time in Call of Duty, right? So there's a reason for that. And it's because players found it more fun. And of course, they saw on their data that, hey, more players were playing the objective because guess what? They were being rewarded for it. So in this game, when you reward, it's just very apparent to me, despite the fact that I haven't played it, right? Like, you play the OBJ along with your, specialist-like abilities and stuff like that. I mean, the game is going to reward you, and it's going to feel good to do it. And you're going to want to do it again and again because it's going to give you a bigger dopamine hint. And then on top of that, you've got the gunplay, which is going to feel better as time goes on. You've got weapons and attachments that literally make your gun better the way they're supposed to be, without punishing you or making the weapon feel worse in another way, which makes if you're going to get an attachment that makes your weapon better in one way but worse in other ways, It's like, are you like, what's the point of getting that attachment in the first place? Like and it's not even fun. It's like, hey, I want this weapon to function the way it normally does, but hey, I need to see better, so I need to put a red dot sight on it, or I need to put a stock in order to increase my my strafe speed or whatnot. But I love the way the weapon feels, and it's going to feel even better in accordance with my playstyle if I put this attachment on it. But then all of a sudden, it's like with some other games to where they punish you. It's like, oh wait, I can't use this attachment because, well, it's going to make me aim really, really slow, and I'm going to lose every single gunfight, which is going to be punishing. So what's the point? You see what I'm saying here? So they're certainly going in the right direction, and I'm very glad and I'm very happy, not just for the community, but I'm very happy that we have developers like this that are being transparent with the community, that are communicating with the community, and giving the community what they want for this genre. A lot of people over the time have been saying that maybe the arena shooter is dead, maybe the arcade shooter is dead, you know, because of battle royale and all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, like, in my mind, my hopeful side was saying that no, it's not dead. It just so happens that such and such is going on, right? Or the popularity, you know, is back in the day, the arena shooter used to be the thing, especially back in the Quake days and in the golden era of Call of Duty. But now, you know, obviously battle royale has become very popular. A lot of people like tactical shooters as well, and that's great. But I think that there is more than plenty of room for all of us to coexist. And I do believe that there is a big community that is into this kind of shooter. It's very apparent. And guess what? The word of mouth is going to help spread that even more, right? So I, for one, am very happy. I'm very happy that that the arena shooter community, the arcade arena shooter community members and players are getting this kind of love. And I'm actually very forward to looking at this. I'm also looking forward to seeing this game played on a competitive level. And I'm not just saying from when I play it, I'm literally saying like when I see professional players play this, because it's going to make it fun to watch. Because right now, Call of Duty to me is not even fun to watch competitively. I mean, back in the day it was. I really enjoyed watching, like, let's say, you know, Black Ops 4 was fun to watch. Black Ops 3 was fun to watch. You know, those were fun. Like I would at least watch COD Champs every year. Right now, I couldn't care less. I really couldn't. You know, because the game, I don't even play the game, so why even watch? So, but this game over here, just looking at this is fun to watch. Watching people put videos and streams on it is fun to watch. And if something is fun to watch, chances are it's going to be fun to play, or even more fun to play, probably. So that's all you need. That's all you need. It's really, really, really simple, but it's the execution that makes it a little bit more difficult and a little bit more challenging. And at the same time, the way you can make it easier is being transparent with your fan base and with the consumer, the customers or whatnot. And these guys, thankfully, over the years, and I don't know how long this game's been in development, but exactly, but over the years or however long it's been, these guys have been taking the feedback. And you know that pros have been taking the feedback as well, because there's a pro handling this and there's other pros. In this presentation, in this one alone, like they talked about what the pros liked about a game, and Crim6 is like, this game is an immediate threat, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, this game is an immediate threat to other first-person shooters out there, to where, you know, people are telling the developers, like, fix your game, do this, do that, and they're just not being listened to, or some shit like that. So it makes me, I love it. I love to see it. So hopefully this game reaches its full potential, and I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing that journey, because it's not going to be a perfect journey. It's going to be there's going to be bumps in the road. That's what happens when you try to reach success, right? You're going to have your bumps in the road, but ultimately at the end of the day, when the game gets better for it, and when you start to see that effort put in and everything like that, it's like, bro, that's all you need. That's all you need. And it's going to make the game better. I mean, when you look at some games when they launched compared to like post-launch, you know, the post-launch product is almost like a night and day difference between the product that they got at launch. So let's say we get a game that's a certain way at launch, that's really good to play, that continues to reach strides and stuff like that, and you watch that progress continue to get better and better over time. Bro, I mean, what more do you want? You know, at this point right now, I think this is the start of a positive of a positive change within the first person shooter community, and I'm very much looking forward to see what else happens with this game, what changes they make, and all that kind of stuff. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. I've already registered on Ubisoft or whatever it is for XDefiant or Play XDefiant. As a matter of fact, after I'm done with this commentary, I'm going to check my email to see if I've gotten a code or whatnot. and I'll go from there. But for the most part, though, again, all the problems that are with the game right now, because this is a legit beta, um, you know, is in terms of the desync and the connection issues and stuff like that. I have faith that they will get fixed, and I have faith that the game is going to play well at launch. I mean, of course, there might be a few hiccups and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we know we have developers that are very passionate about what they do. They legitimately listen to their community and respond to the community, and they're at work. So if something is wrong, they're going to talk about it. Or if they have questions about something, as opposed to, you know, pretending to be the ones that know it all, they seem to be like the kind of people that actually legitimately wants to know what the community thinks of this, or what their opinions are, and what direction they should go about it when it comes to that. You know, obviously the developers, because they are developers, they have to draw a line somewhere, because they're the ones that ultimately decide what to do. At the end of the day, the fact that there's communication and transparency going on is what is going to be the lead factor in success of this game. And just like everything else, really. I mean, the reason why the Call of Duty is failing is because there's no communication, which is why relationships fail, right? Because there's no communication. That's one of the reasons why a lot of relationships fail. It's no different with Call of Duty. So the potential of this game to reach tremendous heights is certainly there, and for a multitude of reasons that we've pretty much discussed in this video. So with that being said, I've been recording for a while now. I think this is a good place to stop. I'm pretty sure I've said at least the majority of what I want to say. I don't script these things. I just talk about it in conversation. This is the way I do things around here. So let me know, what do you think about XDefiant? Some people in my comment section that said that they, at the very least, they find it fun, you know, and which is a hell of a start, right? You know, it's got, why do you play video games in the first place, right? It's got to be fun. You know, why do you want to be competitive in the first place if you have the desire to do so? Because you enjoy what you're doing, right? So why try to be competitive at something that you absolutely despise? You know, careers end very quickly that way. So anyway, what do you guys think of XDefiant so far? What do you guys think about the potential of the game? What do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? How do you, what's your response to the whole, is this a COD killer sort of thing? Is this a COD killer? Is this not a COD killer, or whatever it is? Let me know down in the comment section. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.